My girlfriend told me her ex was just a friend until I found their hotel receipt, so I scheduled our breakup right before her birthday party. I'm a 26-year-old guy, and I've always considered myself a good judge of character. I met Emily about 2 years ago, and things were perfect from the start. She was everything I thought I wanted: sweet, caring, supportive. We clicked instantly, or at least I thought we did. From the moment we met, it felt like we were in sync. Our conversations were effortless. We laughed at the same jokes, and we shared almost everything. It wasn't just the typical honeymoon phase. It felt real. I trusted her completely, which, looking back, feels like the biggest mistake I ever made. She had this way about her. Emily was always the one who took care of the little things, remembering birthdays, sending sweet texts just because. It made me feel like I mattered. We'd spend hours talking on the phone, go on weekend trips, and talk about the future like it was a given. People around us said we were the perfect couple, and I couldn't disagree. For the first time in my life, I thought I was in the right relationship. I believed in her. But there were little things. They were easy to ignore, so easy in fact that I almost didn't notice them. It was the late-night texts she'd get while we were hanging out, and the way she'd quickly hide her phone whenever I looked over. She'd always insist it was just work or a friend, but the tone of her voice when she said it made me feel unsure. I pushed it out of my mind. After all, who could blame her for needing space to talk to her friends? Everyone needs their time, right? Then there were the moments she spent with this one guy. Let's call him Mark. He was always around, always seemed to pop up at the most inconvenient times. Emily would say he was just a friend, and assure me that they had known each other forever. I wanted to believe her. Mark was harmless, right? Just a guy from her past, but something about him always made my gut twist. I shrugged it off. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Things were great after all, but then again, maybe they weren't. As time went on, I found myself questioning less and less. The late-night texts were still there, but I convinced myself they didn't mean anything. Emily was busy, and she had a life before me, right? It was fine. What mattered was that we were happy. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I had this, things started to get off. It was subtle at first. Just tiny moments that didn't quite add up. I remember one night we were sitting on the couch watching a movie. Emily's phone buzzed, and without hesitation she grabbed it and slipped it under the cushion, acting like it was nothing. I didn't say anything, but the tension in my chest grew. She had never been like that before. I brushed it off, telling myself it was just an accident. Maybe she was embarrassed or didn't want to be interrupted during the movie. But then there was that one evening. I came home early from work. I opened the door, and Emily was in the kitchen, her phone sitting face up on the counter. It was almost as if it was waiting for me to see it. Without even thinking, I glanced at the screen. It was a text from Mark. The message wasn't just casual. It was intimate. They were joking about something, but it was the way he called her babe and added that we should pick up where we left off that stopped me in my tracks. My heart sank. My mind raced. Was I being paranoid? I didn't know. But the feeling in my gut told me I wasn't imagining things. I didn't say anything when she came into the kitchen, but I couldn't look at her the same way after that. Something was wrong. I tried to push the feeling away. Maybe it wasn't what I thought. She was just joking around with a friend. But that word, babe, it hit harder than anything else. I'd never called her that, so why did he? That night I laid in bed next to her, but I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, my thoughts spiraling. The trust I had so blindly placed in her was cracking, and I had no idea what to do with it. And then, the next morning, she said something that made my blood run cold. The next morning, Emily was acting unusually distant. I could tell something was off, but I couldn't figure out what it was. She was more distracted than usual, her mind seemingly elsewhere. At one point, she mentioned that she had plans with Mark later in the afternoon. "Oh, it's just lunch," she said with a casual smile, brushing it off like it was no big deal. My stomach twisted. She didn't even notice the way I froze for a second, the way the room felt smaller, the air thicker. I didn't say anything, but it felt like I was being hit in the chest with every word. She was always so defensive when I questioned her about Mark. It used to feel like she was reassuring me, But now it felt like she was hiding something. I kept telling myself I was overreacting. Maybe they were just friends. Friends hang out, right? But the little things, the phone under the cushion, the texts, the way she casually mentioned him, were eating away at me. It felt like a puzzle I couldn't complete. I was staring at a picture of what seemed like the perfect relationship, but all these tiny pieces just didn't fit anymore. That afternoon, I decided to follow her. I didn't want to, but I couldn't help it. Something inside me told me I had to know. I knew it was wrong, but I had to know the truth. I waited until she left, grabbed my keys, and trailed behind her from a distance. I followed her to a cafe, where she met Mark. I stood outside, hidden behind the corner, watching them laugh and talk like nothing was wrong. At one point, Mark put his hand on her shoulder and she didn't even flinch. The way she smiled at him made something inside me snap. That was it. There was no more denying it. This wasn't just some friendship. I felt sick to my stomach. I don't know what I expected, but standing there, watching them interact made everything feel real in a way I couldn't ignore. I felt like a ghost, standing outside my own life, watching the person I loved slip further and further away from me. After a while, I couldn't take it anymore. I turned around and walked back to my car, my heart pounding in my chest. The truth was undeniable now, but I didn't know what to do with it. Should I confront her? Should I wait for her to tell me? Or should I just let it all go, like I had done so many times before? I sat in my car for what felt like hours, trying to figure out my next move. I was angry, confused, devastated. I hated the feeling of being this person who had to sneak around, who had to see it with his own eyes. Emily had always been the one to tell me everything, to let me in. Now I was the one who felt shut out. The betrayal was eating at me, turning into this sharp, unbearable pain. When I got home, Emily was waiting for me. She smiled when she saw me, but it felt forced. She was trying too hard, like she thought everything was fine. But I knew it wasn't. I walked past her, went straight to the bedroom, and closed the door. My head was spinning. My heart felt like it was going to explode. She knocked on the door a few minutes later, asking if everything was okay. I didn't respond. Then she did something I wasn't expecting. She opened the door without waiting for me to say anything. "Why are you acting like this? You've been distant all day. Is it because of Mark?" I couldn't believe it. She knew. She had to have known that I knew. Her voice was shaking, but she still didn't come clean. That was when I realized this wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate. I stood there frozen. Her words hung in the air like they had weight. "Is it because of Mark?" she asked, almost with a hint of accusation, as if I was the one in the wrong. The anger surged through me, hot and fierce, but I didn't say anything. I just stared at her, trying to piece together the broken pieces of my trust. She looked at me, waiting for an answer, her eyes wide, searching for something. Regret? Guilt? But there was nothing. I couldn't take it anymore. I exploded. "You think I don't know? You think I didn't see you with him today?" My voice cracked. The words tasted bitter, but they came out anyway, raw and unforgiving. Her face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" she asked, the mask slipping for the first time. Her hands shook as she ran them through her hair, looking everywhere but at me. I could feel the walls closing in. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it, Emily?" I shot back, my voice rising. "What exactly is it? Because I saw you touch him like that, laugh like that. You don't get to lie to me anymore." She took a step back, eyes darting to the door like she was considering running. But instead, she just whispered, "It's not what you think. You're overreacting." I wanted to scream. I wanted to yell at her, to force her to admit what I already knew. But something inside me cracked. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but the pain was too much. It felt like everything I had built with her was a lie, a house of cards ready to fall. "You told me he was just a friend, Emily," I said, my voice shaking. "But I've seen the way you look at him. I've seen how you've been hiding things from me. You've been lying to my face this whole time. And now you're standing here trying to tell me it's nothing." She bit her lip, her eyes starting to tear up, but there was no apology in her voice, only frustration. "I didn't want to hurt you. I never meant for it to go this far." "Well, it's too late for that," I snapped. The words cut deeper than I meant, but the rage was blinding. I can't keep pretending everything is fine when you've been doing this behind my back. For a moment, there was silence. She stood there, her hands clenched at her sides, and I realized she was waiting for me to give her an out, a chance to justify her actions. But I wasn't giving her that. Not anymore. I couldn't even look at her. The trust was shattered, and I knew it wouldn't ever be the same. I turned my back on her and grabbed my jacket. "I'm done, Emily. You made your choice. Don't come crawling back when it all falls apart." I walked out of the apartment, my heart pounding in my ears. But as I stepped into the cold night, I felt a strange sense of clarity, a calmness that I hadn't felt in weeks. I had no idea what would happen next, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to be her second choice anymore. I didn't hear from Emily for a few days after that. At first, I thought I was relieved, like I could finally breathe without that constant knot in my stomach. But then came the silence, the kind of silence that feels like it's swallowing you whole. The hours dragged on, and I kept replaying that conversation over and over in my head. Had I been too harsh? Too quick to walk away? But deep down, I knew the answer. She had crossed a line I could never ignore, and I couldn't keep pretending it was okay. It was around day 3 that I got the text. Simple, short, like she was testing the waters. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for what felt like an eternity. I wasn't sure what to feel anymore. Should I feel angry? Sad? Relieved? A part of me wanted to ignore it, to keep walking away. But another part of me, one that I hated, still wanted answers. Needed them. I was craving some kind of closure, even though I knew it might just reopen everything. I reluctantly agreed to meet her, not because I wanted her back, but because I needed to understand what had happened. I needed to hear her say it, really say it, so I could finally move on. The idea of her sweeping it all under the rug like it didn't matter was unbearable. We met at a park, the same park where we used to go for long walks, laughing at nothing. It felt different now. Empty. When she saw me, she rushed over, her face a mixture of guilt and desperation. But when I looked into her eyes, I didn't see the Emily I once knew. I saw someone who had betrayed me. The reality of it hit harder than I expected. I felt so detached, like I was already mourning the person I thought I loved. "Can we just talk about this? I don't want to lose you," she said, her voice trembling. I could hear the sincerity in her tone, but there was something in her eyes that didn't match. She was scared, yes, but it wasn't about losing me. It was about losing control. "Emily," I said, my voice steady but cutting, "this isn't about us anymore. This is about the trust you broke. You made your choice when you decided to go behind my back." Her face crumpled, and for a split second, I almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered the lies, the constant hiding, the betrayal. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said, as if that was supposed to make me feel better. "I was confused. I didn't want to hurt you." "And yet you did," I replied, my anger starting to bubble up again. "I wasn't the one lying. I wasn't the one sneaking around. You're the one who chose to betray me, Emily." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Instead, she just stood there staring at me, helpless. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't stand there and listen to her empty excuses. There was nothing left to say. "I think we're done here," I said flatly, turning to walk away. But as I walked off, I felt a strange sense of release. It wasn't satisfaction. It wasn't victory. But it was peace of a sort. The knot in my stomach, the one that had been there for weeks, loosened just a little. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally, truly walking away. A week passed, and the weight on my chest didn't feel any lighter. Emily didn't reach out again. At first, I was relieved. Sure, I didn't want her calling me, begging me to come back. But the silence, it gnawed at me. The pain of being lied to, betrayed by someone I had trusted so deeply, still lingered. I spent my days at work, just going through the motions, but my mind was always somewhere else. I couldn't stop thinking about her. It felt like I was walking around in a fog, and nothing felt real anymore. I didn't know what I expected when I agreed to meet her that day. Maybe I was hoping for some kind of closure, or for her to apologize in a way that would make me feel like I wasn't just the fool in this whole thing. But no, she didn't apologize. She didn't even try to explain herself. And as much as I wanted to believe that was the right thing to do, deep down, I still wished she would have shown some remorse. Some sign that she actually cared about the damage she had done. Then, about 10 days after our last conversation, I got a message. It wasn't from Emily, but from a random number. "You don't know me, but I think you should know what's really been going on." I froze. My heart raced as I stared at the message. My mind immediately went into overdrive. What was this? Another one of her friends? Someone who knew. My gut twisted. This wasn't just an apology. This felt like something bigger. I opened the message slowly, my hands trembling. The text continued. "I know you're hurting right now, but you need to understand that Emily has been hiding a lot more than just her relationship with Mark. She's been lying to you for months, about other things too. If you want to know the truth, you should meet me." I couldn't breathe. I read the message again, the words swimming in front of my eyes. Was this some kind of sick joke? Who was this person? What more could there possibly be? I thought I had known everything. But then again, that's exactly what Emily had wanted me to believe, wasn't it? That everything was fine, that she was the victim in this twisted game. I didn't know what to do. Should I meet this person? Should I even trust them? The more I thought about it, the more my gut told me I had to find out. I needed to know what had been going on behind my back. I responded with a simple, cold message. "Where do you want to meet?" The meeting was set for the following afternoon, at a small cafe on the outskirts of town. I hadn't told anyone about it. I didn't want to share this with my friends or family. They'd already told me to move on, to let go of Emily, but I couldn't. Not yet. Something inside me, something deep and unshakable, told me I needed to know the truth. It was like a dark hole inside me that wouldn't fill until I heard it all. I arrived early, pacing outside the cafe, the cold wind stinging my skin. My heart was beating way too fast, as if I was preparing for a confrontation. My mind was racing, thinking about the possibilities. Who could this person be? And why were they reaching out to me? Was it a friend of Emily's? Someone from her past? I walked inside the cafe and found a seat in the back corner, far enough from the door so I wouldn't be noticed immediately. My nerves were shot. Every few minutes I would glance up at the door, expecting to see someone walk in, someone who would finally shatter whatever little piece I had left. It wasn't until nearly an hour had passed that I saw her. A woman, probably in her early 30s, walked in with her head down, scanning the room. She spotted me and came over, sitting down across from me without a word. I didn't speak either. My heart was pounding in my chest as I watched her. She wasn't the type of person I'd expect Emily to be involved with. She looked ordinary. Maybe a little tired, but nothing about her seemed alarming. Still, I felt a rush of anxiety. Finally, she broke the silence. "You're wondering why I'm here, huh?" I nodded. "Yeah. I need to know what's going on. Why did you reach out to me?" She sighed, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. "Because I couldn't stand seeing you get played. You deserve the truth, not the lies Emily's been telling you." I felt my breath catch. I leaned forward, already knowing this wasn't going to be easy. "What lies?" I asked, my voice almost a whisper. She looked around before leaning in slightly. "Emily's been seeing Mark for months, but it's not just that. She's been lying to you about other people, other things, things that honestly will break you. She's been playing you both for fools." I swallowed hard. "What are you talking about? Do you really want to know the whole story?" She asked, her voice soft but serious. I nodded, even though my body was screaming to walk away, to forget I ever asked. "You're not the only guy she's been stringing along. There's another one, and this one is someone who's much closer to her than you think." I felt my chest tighten. "Another guy?" My mind was racing. "Who?" She paused, her eyes flicking nervously to the door. "Her father." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Her father? What was she talking about? "She's been having an affair with him for months," the woman continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "They've been hiding it from you and everyone else. I don't know all the details, but it's sick. I've seen the texts." I sat there stunned. I felt like the world had shifted beneath my feet. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was twisted. How could anyone, let alone the person I loved, be involved in something so sickening? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was something far darker. I felt the blood drain from my face as I processed the weight of her words. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, "but you deserve to know." I couldn't breathe. The room felt like it was spinning, and for a moment, I thought I might collapse right there in the cafe. The words she just said, the weight of it all, it didn't feel real. I had to be hearing things. This woman had to be lying to me, right? My mind kept repeating the same question over and over. How could Emily, the woman I trusted more than anyone, be involved in something like this? I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. My throat was dry, and the words didn't seem to exist anymore. The silence stretched on between us, a suffocating thing. The woman, the one who had just shattered everything I thought I knew, didn't seem to notice the shock written all over my face. She was watching me closely, waiting for a response, but I had none. "You're probably in shock right now," she said quietly, her voice soft, almost apologetic. "I know this is a lot to take in, but you need to know the truth, and I can't live with myself if I don't tell you." I tried to compose myself to form words that made sense, but it felt impossible. Are you sure about this?" I managed to choke out. "You're telling me Emily is having an affair with her father?" The woman nodded solemnly. "It's been going on for a while. They're careful about hiding it, but I've seen the messages. I've heard them talking. It's disgusting, and I couldn't let you keep living this lie." The air felt heavier with every word she spoke. I wanted to scream, to shout, to do something that would make this whole nightmare stop. But the truth was already out, and nothing I did could change that. I thought back to the moments, the signs I ignored, the secrecy, the late-night texts, the way Emily never let me into her world fully. All of it was leading to this. And now, it felt like my entire life had been one big, ugly lie. I looked at the woman across from me, struggling to hold it together. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "What's your part in all of this?" She met my gaze, her eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and pity. "Because I can't stand watching you get destroyed by her. I don't know how you've dealt with it for this long, but you deserve better. You deserve to know who she really is, not the person she's pretending to be." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. The hurt, the shame, the disgust. It was overwhelming. And yet, I still felt this strange compulsion to hear it all. I needed to understand why Emily had done this, why she'd lied to me for so long. "I'm not the only one, you know," the woman continued. "There are others. Emily has been involved with other men. She's been living a double life, always, playing the sweet, perfect girlfriend when she's been anything but." I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. The woman's words were like daggers. Every one of them was carving deeper into the raw wound Emily had already created. I didn't know how much longer I could sit here, how much more of this I could take. But I had to hear it. I had to know everything because if I didn't, I'd spend the rest of my life wondering what I missed. I looked at the woman, my fists clenched at my sides. How do I even begin to deal with this? How do I face her after this? She shrugged, her expression unreadable. "You don't. You let go. You move on. Because trust me, she won't change. And you're better off without her." Her words hung in the air between us, and I realized she was right. I had to let go. There was no turning back, no fixing this. But even as I stood up to leave, my mind was racing with the weight of everything I had just learned. And as I walked away from the cafe, I knew one thing for sure. Emily was never going to be the same person to me again. I just didn't know how to live in a world where everything I thought I knew about her was a lie. I spent the next few days in a fog. I couldn't think straight. I felt like I was walking around in a daze, everything I knew slipping through my fingers. Emily was no longer the person I thought she was. The sweet, caring girl I had fallen for felt like a distant memory. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't stop thinking about the woman's words. You deserve better. Her voice echoed in my mind, over and over. I had spent so long invested in Emily, trusting her, loving her, that it felt impossible to even imagine a future without her. But the truth was undeniable. The betrayal ran too deep, and no matter how much I wanted to ignore it, every fiber of my being told me it was time to walk away for good. It wasn't just about Mark anymore, or her father, though the thought of that twisted affair made me sick to my core. It was about the lies she'd told me every day, the promises she made that meant nothing. I felt sickened by how much I had invested in someone who had always been playing a different game. The moment I realized I couldn't go back was when I sat down and finally opened the door to everything I had been hiding from. I went through the old texts, the messages I had ignored, the late-night calls I had let slide. Each one felt like a slap in the face. Emily had never been the person I thought she was. She had never cared about me the way I thought. It wasn't love, it was manipulation. It was control. One evening, she texted me, asking if we could talk. I stared at the message, wondering what kind of apology she would offer this time. It didn't matter anymore. I'd already made my decision. I called her. "Emily," I said, my voice steady but colder than I ever imagined it could be. "I don't think we need to talk anymore." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could almost hear her breathing, the panic rising in her chest. "What do you mean? Why are you doing this?" "You made your choice," I said. "I don't want to be part of your lies anymore. I'm done." Her voice cracked, but I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for her anymore. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered, but it sounded hollow. "I just didn't know how to stop." "You should have stopped a long time ago," I replied. "But I'm done now." And just like that, I hung up. It wasn't a victory. It wasn't a moment of satisfaction. It was just the end, a clean break. I walked away, not looking back, not because I was angry, but because I had nothing left to give. Nothing worth saving. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe again. The knot in my chest that had been there for months, maybe even longer, finally loosened. I wasn't happy. I wasn't whole. But I was free. And that's when I realized sometimes walking away is the only way to save yourself.